There is one thing that we want to talk a little bit more about here, Michael, and that goes into the basically continues on the thread of psychic sovereignty and how to attain that. But death instinct is another factor here too. It's a psychological phenomena, I guess. Maybe you can tell us a little bit about this and what your take on this is, and how important this is in terms of understanding the situation we're in, Michael.
Well, this ties back to Freud and the whole question of the ego and the repression. Freud, in his last works, decided that there was, of course, the life instinct, which is having children and feeling positive towards the world, and everything grows and everything gets created. But he noticed there was also this counterpointing energy, which is he eventually called Thanatos, the death instinct, and which is there's also a property in matter and a property in consciousness that basically doesn't want to grow, doesn't want to live. It becomes static, it becomes morbid, and it falls back into inertia. Dust gathers on a table, rust gathers on a piece of metal. There's certain entropy. Nature is also pulling things back into the void. There's a deconstructive model. And Freud's term for this was after the Greek god Thanatos. And he also said that it happens in the mind. With a morbid soul who's been brutalized and terribly hurt, it's like a form of regression. Because there's repression and then there's regression. Regression is that when life becomes so horrible for you that living in the now, living in the present becomes so bad, a safety mechanism is to return, not physically, but psychically, to a previous state of consciousness in which you were safer. And this thing called regression accounts for an enormous amount of human behavior. Incredible to study it. And the death instinct is a much more morbid version of that, in which the person not only now regresses to a previous state, they basically stop. All forms of life force slowly fade. And then you have this, again, morbid, basically vacant, very manipulatable, vulnerable type of person walking around. And so Freud elaborated, you see, on his theories. And then his very close friend and associate, Otto Rank, who's one of the greatest psychologists who ever lived, he changed it a little bit. And this figures a lot in my work and my interpretations, is the theories of Otto Rank, in which he said that, no, the Thanatos is not so much as Freud defined it, as this mysterious, sort of almost mystical, metaphysical, inertia, or some sort of recalcitrant energy, that sort of holds the life force back or whatever. He believed that the Thanatos instinct is what you see when you look out into the world as it is. And this might not sound like a lot to people, but it's actually a tremendous discovery. He said that the Thanatos instinct is not some mysterious state which is almost imperceptible. It is actually what you see when you look at the state of inauthentic men in their lives, in their marriages, in their places of work, behind their cubicles in this sort of Fight Club type scenario, trapped in their suits, sitting in traffic, eating the garbage food, listening to the false misleaders, living inauthentic lives. He goes, there is your Thanatos instinct. It doesn't exist anywhere else in the world. Freud theorized about it and said it existed, but he was vague about how it actually forms. Rank said, I can see it when I open my door. There it is. It's in people's faces. It's in their lives. The morbid energy is the man who's living, but who is self-murdered, self-killed.